Hello, and welcome once again to Strong at Home. We're going to have another interesting conversation today about thinking and cognition and learning. I'm Dr. Brenda Murphy. I'm an educational psychologist, and today I am joined by one of the world's foremost authorities on thinking and cognition and learning, Dr. Kathy Greenberg. Dr. Greenberg, welcome back to Strong at Home. We're looking forward to talking about the tools of thinking today.
Oh, it's great to be with you. I really enjoy this segment. It's so important to remember that feelings and motivation are a part of thinking.
Oh, yes, we're really going to get into that. We often exclude that, and I think that is something that our listeners will really appreciate. It's some new knowledge. So we're going to review just a little bit of our discussion first that we went through in our prior Strong at Home. So those of you who may be just joining us for the first time today have a little bit of background about what we're talking about. And we're talking about Cognitive Enrichment Advantage, which is Dr. Greenberg's approach to learning and thinking. So what is CEA based on, Dr. Greenberg?
It's based on the theoretical work of Reuven Feuerstein and his program Instrumental Enrichment, but this is designed to take his approach on both thinking and emotions and motivation and putting it into everyday life and throughout the curriculum in a school setting, or if you're homeschooling, in the subject matter, as well as dealing with any situation in your life where you have stumbling blocks that you want to turn into stepping stones.
Absolutely. And you and I have been in sort of the ivory tower of academics for so long. And we love words like meta-strategic. And some of our families may not know what that word means, but it's just one way of saying, looking at from like a 3,000-foot view of the kinds of strategies that we can put in place and we can teach our children so that they have the ability to think about how to learn and to, as the slide shows, how to adapt those strategies to think and in their feeling and in their motivational behavior. So this is really exciting for me personally to take what we have studied and have learned that is very appropriate and very exciting with outcomes from our research and research that you've been doing for many, many years, and know that it makes a difference in children's as well as adults' lives.
That's right. And it's helpful to think and understand that meta means above, which means that while you're thinking, while you're learning, you are paying attention to what is going on that will make it more effective. And in this case, we're talking about the tools of learning, which integrate all the time with the building blocks of thinking in giving us strategies that we can use to understand our feelings and motivate our behavior.
Yes, absolutely. And so we talked about in our prior session the building blocks of thinking, and today we're really focusing on the tools of learning. And I love that there are a lot of different tools in a toolbox, so that it means that we have a lot of different types of things that we're looking at. So let's begin and look at the first of those.
Okay, with understanding feelings, we are talking about optimizing the positive effects of emotions so that we can control the emotions that make us freeze up or make us feel like, why should I even bother to get involved, because it feels so bad. It hurts because this stumbling block is just too much for me. And then we began to feel very negative about what we do. So it's really important to realize that when we understand feelings, we can optimize our learning, and then our thinking can become better, and we can focus more on what we need to do as we think.
Oh, yes. I mean, I think that we cannot underestimate the role of feelings in learning, because as you and I both know, and I'm sure all of you listening and watching also know, that there are those really bright and capable children as well as adults, that somehow their feelings have compromised their ability to learn. And so these tools we use to unlock our learning to allow us to think more clearly.
Yes, very much agree with that.
And so these thoughts and actions and values, how do those play into understanding feelings, Dr. Greenberg?
Well, if we look, let's say, for example, a feeling of competence. Notice I didn't say confidence, I said competence, because competence goes to that action level of I can do this, while confidence is the feeling that I probably can do this. I have confidence in myself. But with competence, you have some proof of that. Now, let's say you're learning algebra and you're really struggling. You may not feel competent right now, but you have a feeling of competence that I've been able to do other learning that's really difficult for me, and learning to write an essay, for example, and I can apply that to the learning of algebra because I have some strategies I can draw upon. So therefore, I can still feel competent as I begin to work, and I can also pay attention to the goals that I reach, the successes I have, to increase that competence even more. And that feeling of competence can make all the difference. And all of these occur on a continuum, from very highly effective strategies to very low level and inefficient learning and thinking. So somewhere along that line is your feeling of competence, let's say about algebra. And it may be you haven't accomplished much there and you've really been struggling, but as you begin to look at more broadly and as you begin to make successes, you can move up on that level, and that will make all the difference in you being able to be successful.
And we see that here at Sail Away all the time as well, because we start, especially with some of our younger students, that we have been developing a cursive writing program. And, cursive writing is, a lot of people don't even think about that, or that, it's kind of like a throwaway subject, but it is a skill that is important, I believe, for all of us to learn. And what we found is that, especially for older children who were not taught, but who struggle in other things, being able to master cursive writing, to feel competent to form letters and to get them down on paper and something that's really lovely to look at, as well as clear to read, that we've noticed that has set them up to get to the next level of being able to read. And so if they attach that building, that tool of learning, that I have done this, if I have done this, then I can do something that I'm not feeling like I can right now, because I have achieved this, I can achieve something else that I didn't think I could do. So huge emotions play a huge role in learning. And what I love personally about CEA, and we did talk about, is that we give names to these tools. And it's sort of like if you're working on a project and you need a hammer, well, to go to your toolbox and you pull a hammer out. And you know very specifically that's what you're going to use there. If you need to put a nail into something, you're not going to get a screwdriver or a wrench. And in learning, can you kind of maybe follow up with some more specifics on that for me, Dr. Greenberg?
We call it shared vocabulary. Someone using CEA came up with, and it made so much sense to me. If we share with our children, whether they're our students as teachers or our children in the home and we're homeschooling, or we're living and raising our children, it helps if we have a shared vocabulary, so we all know what we're talking about. It also helps in memory retrieval, so you can think back, what is it that I need in order to overcome this stumbling block in my learning? And if you've got those labels to hold on to, it's much you're much more receptive, you're much better able to retrieve what you need. And out of that comes your real understanding of how do I personalize, say, feeling of competence to fit into a situation. But motivation is also very, very important.
Absolutely.
The other half of the tools of learning.
Yeah, we're going to look at that right now. I get my technology here. There. Behavior. Sorry, I'm still learning technology. Maybe I'll apply some of the tools of learning to my technology. I'll practice those.
Okay, motivation is a force that energizes, sustains, and directs behavior toward a goal. So it's very important. We physiologically, we need motivation, and that is occurring at a neurological level, but we need it in our thinking. We need to have some strategies around how we can do this. So, for example, one of the tools for motivating behavior is goal orientation, which is even there. But it's about being clear about what your goal is, being clear about the steps that you need to reach it, which goes back to building blocks of thinking in making a plan and knowing what those steps are. But it's also about persisting. It's so important to persist, especially if you have a stumbling block. When it makes a lot of sense, it's a pretty smart strategy to say, well, I'm not going to try and fail, so I just won't try.
Yeah.
But what happens then is that the teacher or the parent thinks that I am lazy, and therefore there's nothing they can do because it's just a character defect in me that I'm lazy, rather than that it's a defense mechanism to keep me from feeling that lack of feeling of competence that I have to fail. So it's very important with goal orientation then to realize that you've got to persist. And maybe you need to change your plan, but in order to reach your goal, but you also need to be realistic about how long it might take to reach that goal. So you're always got your eyes on the reaching the goal, but you're paying attention to the steps along the way and congratulating yourself as you meet those steps, as you find that they are helpful to you.
Yeah, and these are things that what always appealed to me about the CEA is that it gives, when you are in a difficult situation, it gives you something to do, because very often we don't know what to do, and we're just stuck. And we don't know. We know that we should persist, but how can we persist so that you'd bring in another one of the strategies to help you think through? And for parents working with children and for teachers with students as well, when you have learned the CEA approach to thinking and learning, then together, if the student is struggling with how to apply a strategy, then together the parent and the teacher and the child can put together a strategy so that it is working together. There's a form of collaboration here that is not only for the moment, but also is modeling how to apply ways to think specifically and strategically in any situation. So there's a lot of meta going on here, not only for strategies of just in a learning environment, but really all of life can be involved in these ways to think about teaching and learning. It's life skills, not just in school or academic. They apply to everything. And I want to bring up one so that we can look at, as we have to close, our time is almost over, that this is a global look of the tools of learning. So they fall into two categories. And if you want to summarize for us, Dr. Greenberg, that would be awesome as we finish up here.
All right. I want to go back to the goal of CEA, but also of Feuerstein's work with his instrumental enrichment program and in his theorizing. What our long-term goal is helping children become independent learners who are able to adapt and contribute effectively to an ever-changing world. And that means, for example, with self-regulation, which was the first of the motivating behavior tools, it's so easy to say self-regulation. Okay, I'm going to tell my child how to regulate. Sit down, be quiet, look at your math page of your workbook and begin to work. When what we want is independent level of self-regulation. As one child in CEA termed it, he said, it's doing what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it.
Yes, we want all of our children to do that.
But the emphasis was on my doing what I'm supposed to do, not just following somebody standing over me and telling me exactly what to do. I watched a teacher once who wanted to demonstrate how to teach self-regulation. And she was saying, all right, class, put your pencil at the top of the desk, open your workbook to page 42. And I'm going, where's the self in that? Instead of, all right, students, what would help us to get started in this lesson? What is it you need to know? What is it you need to do? And let the children tell you, put my pencil down for a moment, open my workbook, be sure I'm on the right page. Would make a big difference.
You know, Dr. Greenberg, that is so instructive because we need some of the practical application in how to apply the building blocks and tools that are part of CEA, and we're out of time again. And what I'd like to do is for us to come back and maybe look at each one of those individual building blocks and tools, and for you to tell us some more stories like you were telling just then of your experience of how real teachers and real parents, because CEA is both a home as well as a school opportunity and partnership, so that we can get more fine-grained about how parents can apply CEA in their homes or teachers in their classrooms. Does that sound like a good idea to you?
Oh, I would love to do that. Love to talk about what I've learned from all the children and teachers and parents that I've worked with.
Yes, that would be wonderful. And so we're going to have to close. As much as I don't want to, I would love to keep talking for the rest of the afternoon. However, we will close for now because what we have learned has indeed been a huge blessing for all of us. So we will finish Strong at Home like we always do with the blessing of the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. So thank you, Kathy. Peace to you and peace to all of you out there. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.